how to train a dog, even if they won't
take treats.
All the time, I talk to people about training their dog, right? And they say, my dog jumps, pulls, barks, lunges, bites, fights. Whatever that thing is, we have a similar path to solve most of those problems. But I always talk to people and I go, hey, what is it that you have tried to solve this issue so far? And they go, well, we brought some treats on the walk, but the dog wasn't interested at all. You've tried to do the dog training thing. You followed the YouTube videos, the TikTok videos, even maybe going to a group class or a local trainer, and they said, take a treat, put it in front of the dog's nose, lift it up like this, eyes go up, butt goes down. Look, you made a sit. Give the dog a treat, right? Has anybody ever had that experience with either that's where training started, or we tried to do that and the dog's like, bro, I don't even care about the treats? Well, so today I'm going to jump into my full training process that has led me to success where most other dog trainers have failed. And that's not hubris. Go check the Google reviews, right? And I will tell you where that success comes from, which is also going to dig into why you're struggling to find that success with your dog. And it starts with that simple idea of why can't I get my dog to take treats outside? When I train a dog, no matter how big the behavioral issue is, I can deduce everything down into this 4-point system. Now, you're going to have to bear with me for a minute because the 4-step system is kind of an umbrella, right? And I'm going to go, here's the big piece, and then here's each piece and how we move that needle along. So if you settle in and join us here, share it with anybody that you know that has a dog at all, we'll jump in here. So how to train a dog even if they won't take treats. Well, the first thing that we have to think about when we want to train our dog is that we have 2 options of how we can get the dog to do the thing. We can force the dog to do the thing, or we can motivate the dog to do the thing. Which option would you prefer? Overall, I'm going to tell you that you can do both kindly, but the thing is that a lot of people think it's A or B, right? But it's not force or motivate. It's eventually going to bring both of those things together. But if we don't start with the ability to motivate the dog, then we're probably going to find lots of places to struggle along the way. I bet when you pull a bag of treats out, your dog runs up and finds you and is happy to take a treat. So if nothing else, you know that your dog will take a treat. So let's think of that as a behavior, and let's kind of go along the path as we go all the way from your dog taking a treat in the kitchen, and let's move that along all the way until we get something that would look like a trained dog. Now, I regularly deal with dogs that are fighting and biting, dogs that have anxiety, reactivity, aggression, right? Deep behavior issues. But these are the places where we have to start to solve those issues because your dog doesn't have the skills, you don't have the skills, and we need to make sure that we are collectively building together. So let's talk a little bit about the system that we use to do that, and then we'll dig in deeper as we go along. So the 4-step system. Step 1, stop the negative behaviors. Okay? Step 2, play with your dog. Step 3, train your dog. And step 4 is live life with your dog. We've got our 4 steps here, but what does that mean? How do we apply that? How do we make that look? How do we make sense of that? The current behavior that we can get is we can get the dog to eat a treat inside the kitchen. And other than that, you think all the dog trainers are crazy because your dog won't even take a treat outside. So, first of all, easy tip right off the bat, something that you can guarantee to do that should work pretty well, is that when you crinkle that bag and your dog comes to running up and get that treat, they'll eat that treat right there in the kitchen, but they're looking at you. They are ready to eat that treat. So walk into the other room and give them that treat. Next time, walk into a different room and get that treat. Walk all over the house while they are ready to get that treat and give them that treat. And then finally, one day, open the door, walk outside, and give them that same treat. You very well might find a pretty cool path to success. But whether your dogs are fighting and biting or barking and lunging, whether your dogs are pulling on a leash or eating food off the counter, no matter what the behavioral problem is, the first thing we want to do is avoid that negative behavior. So let's think of how this applies to your dog that you can't train because they won't eat treats outside, all right? Well, I would assume that this is not the only behavioral issue that your dog is dealing with. If your dog is pulling on the leash, fighting and biting, barking and lunging at your neighbors, or even jumping on strangers when they meet them, right? Then we need to avoid those behaviors. So, step one, stop the negative behaviors, right? This is what you do. This is your job as a dog owner, to put your dog in the right scenario so that they don't feel the feelings that cause them to do those negative actions. All right? And yes, for about 90% of you, that's going to mean stop going for the walk. Trust me, we'll get to what we will do instead very soon. Let me tell you why. Why do we do this? Well, number one, when your dog does that negative behavior, your dog is naturally doing what it is that they want to do. So that means that behavior is going to be self-rewarding. It's more than likely to happen again. All right? On the other hand, these behaviors are also a stress response. So if my dog sees somebody that they don't like, that person comes, my dog barks and lunges, that person goes, ah, and leaves. Well, then the dog got what they wanted out of that scenario. The dog also was really stressed at that scenario. And when that happened, the dog got a rush of feelings and emotions and this, that, and the other. And it could take them up to 72 hours to recover and feel normal again after that stress event. I always equate this to what I call shower fights, although nobody else calls them shower fights, just me. But it's like after you've been kind of in an altercation or an argument or a discussion with somebody, and then they go that way and you go this way, right? And you're sitting there going, God, I should have called them this or that or done this or that or whatever, right? And you are still kind of actively in that fight. Inside your brain, there's not really much of a difference between you and the person actually yelling at each other and you just playing it in your mind, right? All of the same things are happening and going on. Your dog is the same way. They're staying in that stress, which means the next time they see a dog, they're more likely to do the thing again. So the fact that you are going out and letting your dog pull makes your dog's pulling worse. The fact that you are going out and your dog is responding to other dogs in the neighborhood, barking, lunging, pulling, whatever, makes that behavior worse. If your dog is actually aggressive and they actually get in a fight or bite a person, when that happens, it more than likely makes that behavior stronger. That's just the way behavior works, okay? So that's why we start step one, stop the negative behaviors. Now, in general, more often than not, as much as we can, that's just avoiding, right? However, in some specific circumstances, we might not be able to avoid that behavior. So we might need to stop it a little bit faster or tell the dog no. Every dog and every owner in every situation is different, which is why we should reserve multiple different ways to help multiple different people and dogs. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out. I hope you are getting some good information so far. Make sure you smash that like and subscribe to the channel and drop any questions you have down in the comments. Okay, so let's get back to this. So when we talk about stop the negative behaviors, now this is the absolute number one biggest difference between when I train a dog and when I teach you to train a dog. Because when I say stop the negative behaviors, I mean I don't want to see the negative behaviors, all right? And there's so many reasons. I can talk about just this for a whole hour, but I'm not quite gonna, right? But essentially, if you put the leash on your dog and take them out and they have a stress response, a reaction out there every day, and you are guiding them into that situation, then you are taking them somewhere that they don't want to be, not giving them the ability to not go there. And so not only are we reinforcing that behavior, but we are destroying your relationship, right? If you called me up and you said, hey, Joel, you want to go have a beer? I said, yeah, cool. I like beer. You seem pretty cool. Let's go. You come up, you pick me up. I hop in the car. We drive to the bar, the restaurant, whatever, right? And we go in and my ex-wife is bartending. Well, that sucks. I'm pretty uncomfortable, but I'm also let bygones be bygones. And by now it's whatever. So no big deal. We can have one drink and then go, but it's fine. However, her new partner is also at the bar and they have heard every single story about me ever, period, whatever. All right. At that time, it is pretty understandable that you've brought me into a situation that I don't want to be in. And there is a high likelihood that we are going to have a high stress event. All right. If that happens, okay, no big deal, whatever. It happens. We leave. Cool. The next week, you call me up. Hey, Joel, you want to go hang out? Yes, absolutely. Awesome. Let's do it. We go. You take me to the same spot. The same thing happens. The third week in a row, you take me to the same spot. The same thing happens. The fourth week in a row, I'm not going. I'm not following where you are leading me because you are leading me to places that I don't want to be. We're talking about stopping the negative behaviors, and I'm out here going, that means no walks, because that's the situation that your dog can't handle. So I'm going to pull a lesson directly out of Digital Dog School and explain this to you in a way that makes sense. This is my house. I got a driveway and a road. This can also be part of the road. There's a cul-de-sac down at the end of the road. So check this out. We are going to have multiple different training arenas. 1, the backyard is 2, so is the front yard. The driveway is 3. The road in front of the house is 4. The road in front of my neighbor's house is 5. And until we can do something, how about take a treat, right? Consistently in area 1, which is inside the house where there is no other intake of information. There's no birds, there's no squirrels, there's no dogs, there's no people, there's nothing to be overexcited by, there's nothing to be scared of. We are in our safe, fun place. All right? That's where we start. Once we can start to do that, then we can move to 2, maybe even 3, right? And it's not we stay here until we go there, but we might be working on getting attention in zone 3 while we've started to work on our obedience in zone 1, right? It just depends. Can I get my dog's attention? That's like the first thing you want to know. Well, again, we can either force or motivate. If I want to motivate instead of force as much as possible, then I need to find out what my dog loves. We avoid the walk. How am I supposed to keep my dog from becoming an absolute yahoo? Because dogs have needs. So what are we going to do with all of that energy? That's why we are in step 2, play with your dog. All right? And 100%, hands down, no argument, step 2, play with your dog is the number 1 reason why scuba dive dog training has the ability to be confident about being the second or even third dog trainer when people have really big behavioral issues and they haven't had success before. This is where the magic happens, because play is the single most important, most beautiful, most amazing thing that you could ever do with your dog. If you are not going to do any of this, and there's absolutely no way you're going to follow an entire training plan, play with your dog. It is the number 1 thing that can move the needle the farthest, the fastest, the most effectively. play with your dog. So what do I mean? I mean, what does your dog love? Step one in playing with your dog is understanding what your dog loves, right? I love to play tug. If I had a dog that didn't like to play tug and they only like to play fetch, or maybe they didn't like to play fetch or tug and they only wanted to do nose games and sniff around, then that's what we would do. Because you need to find out what your dog loves and watch what happens. Okay, and I'll explain this in a human concept in a minute. But if you find out what your dog loves and you give it regularly and freely, free, okay? Stop being so transactional with your dog. Do you want your dog to feel differently about a scenario? Then don't make them perform a trick before you will give them the thing that you think will make them feel better about the scenario. So when we are starting, you don't have any skills anyways yet, right? Some of you might, and we might be going backwards, and that's fine. We can add foundations after we know how to sit, come down, stay, and heel, right? We can add foundations after we have 75 trick titles. So that was my attempt at a trick title. Give freely. Play with your dog. In the beginning, if you play with your dog already and you are tug, 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 out, down, sit, heel, walk, 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 throw, and you got a dog that is like still reactive and you're still struggling on these things, then stop doing all that other stuff and build more value in the play. Build a better relationship, connection with your dog, you and them, right? Think about it. If my wife told me she'd love me more if I did more dishes, we'd have a really shitty relationship because it would all be transactional. But if instead she knows things that I like and she looks for opportunities to give me things that I like and help me out, I do the same. Especially when the favor is not being returned, because that's when we need it the most. So if your dog is struggling, stop making them do so much and start giving. One of my favorite teachers says, want for, not from. That's where we need to be if we're trying to change behavior in dogs. So once again, what does your dog love? Find out what your dog loves and give it regularly and freely. You don't know how to find what your dog loves? Awesome. No big deal. That's what Digital Dog is for. We have a lesson called Dating Your Dog where I show you not only how to actually play with your dog, which surprisingly, it's not surprising. And don't feel weird if you're like, I don't know how to get my dog to do the things. Cool. That's why it's everybody's favorite lesson in Digital Dog School, is because I teach you how to play with your dog, how to show your dog these games, how to introduce your dog to tug and fetch and games of food, and how to get them to like the resilience and to work a little bit harder. So how do we find this? When we date our dog and we find out what our dog loves and we give it to them freely and regularly. Do you know what happens? What happens is you are showing your dog what in dog training we call a history of reward. Told you I was going to work it in there, Leah. You have what your dog loves and you're giving it to them regularly. So if you go outside with your dog every day, instead of just letting them wander around the backyard, you go with them, and when they're over here sniffing raccoon pee and digging a hole and whatever, and finally they go, hey mom, what's going on with you? And you go, boom, food, bop, bop, food. And you just become kind of this pen dispenser of when they pay attention to you, you show them how great of an idea is. Maybe they don't love food, so maybe this is toys, right? Maybe they're off sniffing the ditch and all of a sudden they come and go, what are you doing? And you go, I got a ball, wham, and you throw it. And they're like, hell yeah, right? And now you become the source of the good stuff, the food, the fun, quickly the guidance and the leadership, right? Because everybody knows that dogs need leadership. We've got two ways in general that I believe that you can lead. So, you can either be the alpha, or you can be, I don't know what the right word is, a teacher. Alpha, guess what, guys? Remember earlier when we said there's two ways to train a dog? You can force them to do things, or you can motivate and educate. If you use this word, I know what you're not. It's that simple. At no time in my life have I ever worked hard for a leader that thought that there was some kind of natural force that made them better than everybody. Right? I will work to the end of the world to somebody that's going to work hard with me. For somebody that's going to understand my situation. What motivates me to work for you? And if you do that, I will follow you anywhere. So this, if we know that dogs need good leadership, right? We can force the leadership or we can buy it. You can either make the dog follow or you can make the dog want you to lead. Does that make sense? Does that choice, does that mindset as a foundation of all of our training make sense? We are trying to find a way to become the leader. So this is what we are doing through play. Find out what your dog loves, give it to them regularly and freely, which builds a history of reward. So at this time, we're going to say play builds relationship. Motivation. Here's a cool thing that happens. If play builds relationship and motivation, and you know what your dog loves, and your dog likes to get what they love from you, again, that history of reward. They know when they look at you, you're going to throw food. You got a tug in your pocket. You're going to give them a sweet voice. You're going to tell them they're awesome. You're going to give them something wonderful, right? So we use our motivators and our relationship together in tandem to build the number one thing that every single pet dog needs more of: confidence. If I know what you love, then I can ask you if you will play that game over here in a new place today. And sometimes the dog will go, I don't know, man. I really like food. I really like toy. I really like ball, but I'm really not sure. And you're like, bro, it's me. We got this. We can do this. This is the thing that we do together. Let's go. And you can encourage and coach and be that source of the confidence. The motivation is the hope. You are the relationship, is the coach, and we build confidence. Through play, we build a relationship, motivation, and confidence. Let's come all the way back to your dog that'll only eat treats in the kitchen. And you started to move around the world, right? And they're now eating treats in the kitchen, in the bedroom, in the living room, in the bathroom. Downstairs was hard, right? We actually had to stop on the landing. They went on the landing, they had a couple of treats, but they thought we were going to go outside and they got a little too excited, so they stopped eating treats there. Understand? We paused there. We showed them that a few times. Now they eat treats there. Now, everywhere in the house, this dog will eat treats, and we've even started to go outside. Sweet. If you make those treats a game, you raise that value. Right? But do you see how if your dog goes from, oh, there's a bowl of food on the floor and nobody ever cares, right? To, oh, this person that was basically a roommate, I like to cuddle with them sometimes, but now the more I pay attention to them, the more food I get. And in fact, the food doesn't seem to be around or free anymore. And that's kind of fine because that person's just giving it out like candy all the time. Well, that makes me want to pay attention to them. That makes you want to play the games with them. So then, through play, we've built a relationship, motivation, and confidence. If you don't have this foundation, then whenever you take that thing we talked about in the beginning, you take a treat, you put it in front of the dog's nose, you lift it up, eyes come up, butt goes down, you give the dog a treat. Congratulations, you made it sit. But if your dog will not take that treat outside, then we have no training. So that's why we need to start small. Rewind. Training area 1, we play our games, we build from there. Training area 2, we play our games, we build from there. Training area 3, we play our games, we build from there. Okay? Seems like a lot, doesn't it? Seems almost like there's an actual educational process and you should learn as much as your dog does. And you guys should be a team and you should work together and you should take some time to build that. Hi, my name's Joel. I teach that way. Play's a good time, right? Play is exciting. Right? Dogs learn well through opposites, which means we use play to teach dogs to calm down. Out of all the things you've ever wanted your dog to do, calm down? Anybody? I'm not talking about go in your kennel and then because you are constrained, calm down. I'm not talking about go to your place. We use play to teach dogs to calm down. Now think about your issues with your dog. Are they anxious? Are they too excited? Are they aggressive? Are they struggling with handling their own emotions? And from somebody who's spent about 20 years now trying to teach themselves to calm down, take the that lives in here and keep it there. Because it's not the best out here. This is hard. And it takes time. And you don't solve the problem of being an asshole out in public by never addressing yourself at home. The reason that I wake up and I do yoga and I meditate most mornings is half because I'm old and my back hurts. And the other half is because I don't want to be an asshole. That's this process for dogs. I'm going to be honest. It's a pretty quick explanation for step 3 because, like I said, step 1 and step 2 are the foundations. They create the life we need with the dog. They create your leadership. They create your history of reward so that your dog knows that you are the giver of good stuff. They stop your dog from feeling all the time. Your dog actually gets to spend time being who they want to be. This makes sense about how this might build a better life. And I'll tell you what, right? I got another teacher. His name's Chad Mackin. He says, and I 100% agree, happy dogs don't bite people. So if you have a dog that is aggressive, that is destructive, that is fighting and biting, then you need to make that dog happy, make his life worth living, not teach him a downstay that he'll never break. If you've been with me through steps 1 and 2, and you're like, this shit makes sense, well, cool, because step 3 and 4 are Basically, dog training is normal, right? That's the same thing that lots of people are going to do, right? But if we don't have that foundation first, because my dog won't take treats outside, then we're not ready to do these other things. So, step 3, train the dog. Now, this is specifically talking about obedience. Right? Obedience is what most of you believe dog training is supposed to be. I say you do. If you do, you get a treat. If you don't, you get either made to do it or, sometimes some people will apply some pressure. This is super important. Obedience for a dog is equal to elementary school for a child. Sit, come, down, stay, leash. Okay? If you want other things with your dog, awesome. This is just like the basic bill of goods for a dog trainer. Boom, 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 right? Not that that's what we teach around here. It's just education, right? Watch this. Math, reading, spelling, failed that one. History, right? Social media these days, not social studies, I guess. I don't know. It's the same thing. Now, if your child doesn't learn these, and you go, let's send him to the grocery store to grab us a few things. Well, they can't read, so they can't read your list. They can't read your text. They can't read the names on the boxes of the products, so can't complete the task. They can't write, so they can't text you that they can't read, right? They can't make a list. They can't do math. They don't know how to money. They cannot complete the task of going to the grocery store. Okay? And then, how do we respond? How many of you put your dogs in the exact same place, and then when they don't have any clue what they were doing, because nobody taught them, you yell at them, you use the prong collar, the e-collar, the slip lead, you get all crazy and unstable. It happens. Everybody does it. I've been there. But if your dog doesn't have an education, how can you expect them to do the thing that you want them to do when it's even harder? Right? Now, the thing about this particular stage, right? Dogs don't learn quickly. They really don't. Just human children don't either, right? Think about how you learned math, right? And we still use paper. I'm old, right? And every day in math class in elementary school, we'd get the stupid worksheets. And the worksheet would have like 30 math problems on it. And I would do 30 math problems every day, right? And when this process starts, it's plus and minus. And it's one number plus one number minus one number, right? Individual digits all the way along for a whole page of 30 questions, right? And then you do that 3 days in a row. And on the end of the third day, the last question on the page on the third day is 2 digits minus 1 digit. And you go, whoa, teacher, I don't know how to do this. And the teacher comes by and goes, hang on. If you do, right, you've got 12 plus 4. And you're like, ah! And the teacher goes, hang on. All you have to do is do this one plus this one, and they land here. And this one plus this one, and it lands here. And that's the instruction she gives you on that day. And she goes, we're going to learn more tomorrow. You are doing it. You've done enough times to know how to do it. Then we make it a little bit harder. Your coach helps you with the answer. And then if we need to address more, we will. Right? But this right here in your dogs is getting it right in area 1, get it right in area 2, and then going while we're playing in area 2, then all of a sudden squeaking out into area 3 and then going back into area 2. Instead of what you do, which is go for the walk and you leave, you don't ever start in area 1. You walk right through area 2, buzz through area 3, and by the time you hit area 4, it's pulling, barking, lunging. The dog's a mess. The walk's a mess. You're on the ground. You know, your neighbors are laughing at you. You're crying. Your dog is gone. Like, I don't know. I'm just kidding. Let's talk about moving into stage 4. Now, here's another thing that I think is a big piece of the puzzle that most dog owners miss, right? And it's capitalism's fault. So, thanks. But dog training is sold in a 2-week board and training or a 6-week group class or 10 lessons, right? And people think that dog training is like this little thing that we do for problem dogs, and once we've done it, everything should be fine, right? That's not really how it works. Dog training is an education. You and your dog are a team. And once you have built some skills in the train the dog phase, you can begin to take those skills out into the world and little by little use those skills to achieve your goals with your dog. Now, if you keep charging out on the walk and your dog is barking and lunging and pulling and being ridiculous, then every day you're still making the problem worse. So you're not going anywhere. So would you rather go nowhere or backwards or to frustrating town or to we're just not even going to go for a walk ever again town, right? Or would you rather go little by little over a period of time? It's different for everybody. And by that time, you'll have gone a long damn way. So it is not come out of the driveway, go for the walk around the neighborhood. Oh shit, we were reactive here. We were reactive here. We were reactive here. Oh, this part was great. We were reactive here, and then we got home. Right? If this was a sporting match, you done lost 4-0. Right? More than likely because we don't even know what a point on our team would be. Okay? Now, let's change this. Okay? So, how do we get a point? Well, we walk a distance, could be 10 feet, could be 10 blocks. With the dog, not pulling, we stop, the dog stops with us, we can give the dog a treat. Okay? That's how we get a point. So, what do you want to do? Do you want to make that big circle and get all those points for the other team? Or do you want to go this far and get a point? We'll get a circle for our point. And then we go back this far and we get a point. Look at how many points we can get right here in the driveway. We have 4 points. How many's the other team got? None. All right, so now let's try to do more. We go down here again. Bam, another point. Back again. Bam, another point. Bam, another point. Now we can come out here in the street. And I'm going to teach you one of my favorite tricks for getting points, as in succeeding with your dog, and having an oh shit handle. Right? So like this is the equivalent of when you're 17 and your friend takes a left turn too fast and you go, oh shit, and you grab that handle in the car, right? This is what you got. So, this is a street in front of our house. This is where I live, right? So there's some trees here and there's some trees here. And this is my yard. This is my driveway, right? So we're doing good in the driveway. We're racking up points. Everything is going well, right? So we've got 10 points in the driveway. Now we're going to pull out here and we're going to grab a point right there. All right? We're going to go a few steps back and get another point there. This is going well. Point there, point there, point there, point there, point there. Racking them up, y'all. We're up 20-0. This is how you teach a dog. Now, your dog is reactive. If a dog comes within 50 feet of you and your dog, he is going to absolutely lose it. So that cannot happen because we are still, even though we are in step 3, train the dog, we are still inside step 1 of avoid the negative behaviors. So this dog, right, he's walking along, and if he gets here and we are still here, we're fucked. Okay? That's why we stay in front of our house and go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth instead of all the way around the neighborhood. Because if this interaction comes here, I don't know, put your dog in a trash can. Right? That's great. That's totally cool. Love little guys, not big guys, right? That's like a legitimate tip if there's like a real scary dog running at you guys and you see your dog and you're just like, whoop. Anyways. But remember, if we're back and forth right in front of our house and there's a dog coming, we go, oh, hey, Sparky, our lesson is over. No big deal. Right inside the house where it's safe. No more barky, no more lungy, no more big deal. Right? And we wait until we are prepared for this moment. If you've been training a little bit longer and you're confident and you're prepared and you know what to do and you're ready, then maybe you and your dog can deal with that moment. But you're going to do it deliberately when you're ready, when you have a plan. Because if you don't know what to do if it goes well and know what to do if it goes wrong, you're fucked before you get started. Inside that 4th step, that's where we deal with the actual problem. So if you are trying to solve your dog's problem while that problem is happening, you're not going to get there. Avoid the negative behaviors, play with your dog, train your dog, and then you have a dog that is living a satisfied life, has stopped self-rewarding the behaviors you don't want, is less stressed overall day to day, is motivated, confident, has a great relationship with you, and the ability to calm down, and also knows what it is that you want them to do when you ask them to do. If you have that skill set, then you can solve the big problem. Can some of you solve the big problem without that much work? Sure. Are there shortcuts in that process? Sure. Do you have the skills to use those shortcuts effectively? No. Right? It's like, just because I bought the best wood and the best tools and the best stain and put you inside the kitchen of $1 million house, can you build beautiful cabinets? I can't. Y'all, I like literally can't even hammer a nail in straight. It bends over every single time. I am not handy. I don't pretend to. So like, you don't know what's going on with the dog. Stop pretending. No big deal. No worries. There's tons of dog trainers that can teach you. If all of this that I've put together makes sense, I'm happy to be the one to help to teach you. We've got our self-guided program at Digital Dog School. Takes you through this entire process. It's got over 70 lessons. Wow, that's a lot. It is. But they're small lessons designed to guide you to keep going better little by little by little by little. This here in this video is way too massive of a chunk, right? But it's the overview. And then we need to dig in little by little by little by little. You get new lessons every month so we can all grow together. You get the You get the ability to ask questions through our tailored training talks, which is a Q&A. And then you get our online support group, because it's not always easy. It doesn't always go like it is, like you think it should. And sometimes you need to go, hey, nobody else in my world understands how big of a win this is. You guys do, and we do. And we'll celebrate with you. Or like, nobody understands how hard I've been working and how difficult this particular struggle is. We do. And we got you. And like, please show us the pictures of you and your dog in your matching pajamas, because like, that's all we really want. So let's see what kind of questions we got on that. Selena's got a min pin mix, and it's biting people if they come close to, I believe it was them or their partner, and they've tried smacking it on the nose, and they've tried using treats to distract, right? So if we apply the 4-step system, right, you got to stop having people come over for a while. If people are going to come over for a while, then we got to put the dog up, okay? And that means crate training, cool, no big deal, right? But we're going to avoid that situation. We're going to find what the pup loves, and we're going to start motivating that dog. We're going to start playing with that dog. We're going to start building that value between me and the dog. We're going to be having fun, and we're going to, inside those games, we can help build a tolerance of touch, right? We can help build a tolerance of frustration, and we can help the dog understand that you are the one to follow. Then we can use our teaching, our education. We can use our crate training from Train the Dog, our place training, go stay on your bed, those kind of things to help us navigate the actual issue when it's in place. And the act of building the relationship, building the confidence, building the motivation with the dog, giving it the biological satisfying lifestyle is going to move the needle a long way. If you have dogs that are actually fighting and biting, that's a place where Digital Dog School is probably going to be our textbook, right? You'll still get the ABC 1, 2, 3 how-to of each lesson there, but we're probably going to need to do one-on-ones for safety, for where your dog is a little bit different. Jennifer Sanchez says she's got an XL bully, and the problem is that we live in an apartment, so we're struggling to get out. So there are some solutions to bridge the gap until we're ready, right? So there are some things like the 4 a.m. Walkers Club, right? We can get outside in a place where there is nobody. Sometimes that's early in the morning. Sometimes that's the church parking lot up the street. We get them in the car and, we drive up there. But if it is like we are, now if you're in like an inner city apartment where we are inside, then we have to do elevator and stuff, that is even a bigger difficulty. And those are the scenarios where I say, hey, stop the negative behaviors can't always be completely positive, because sometimes we do need to get into that process where we go like, hey man, you've got to get outside and you can't be acting that way. So we're going to actually start with where we would end with in the other side. We would probably punish that behavior to get rid of it and then rebuild the dog from there. If you don't know how to rebuild the dog, then you don't get to punish the dog to start with. That needs to be very clear. But also, if the dog is not that dog that won't take food, we might be able to just shove food in the dog's nose and have the dog follow us wherever we need to go. If the dog loves tug toys, we might be able to shove a tug toy in his face, and he might bite that tug toy and be able to stay biting that tug toy while he tries to walk past somebody else for some other reason, right? So there are a lot of techniques that we can use to navigate that, like right up front. It's in our face always. First and foremost, like just you're going to open the door, just stick your head out, right? Is there anybody out here? No. And you might have to, like, Mission Impossible, bump, 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 while you're trying to get out the door. But like, that is the plight of what we got to do. And now if we get that really good obedience, then we can put the dog in down, and then we can bump, 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 bump around the corner, right? Oh, cool. There's nobody here. Great. Let's go. And then he's right with us, right? But that's a skill that we might need to apply later. And we can build that inside and then take it outside when it's ready. What's next? So Taylor's got multiple dogs in the home, been attacked in the backyard by the other dogs in the neighborhood, right? So first of all, if there's a fence involved that has some kind of weakness, that structural thing needs to be addressed first, okay? If I got a neighbor that has dogs that is going to let his dogs out and they're going to be volatile and our dogs are going to have struggle to get to know each other or to exist, then I'm going to go over to that neighbor and talk to them with kindness and be like, hey, can we navigate this? Can we try to text each other? Can we try to peek outside and make sure that your dog's not out and I won't let mine out and vice versa, right? Can we find some way to amicably navigate this, right? Now, if they say no, then I'm going to advocate for my dogs, right? Like your dogs are not just going to come into my yard and harass my dogs. I'm going to protect my dogs, right? But essentially, the backyard then would be not able to be training area 2, right? That's going to be a higher stress area. So let's aim for the front yard on leash, right? Let's aim for putting the dog in the car and taking them to, an industrial parking lot that is empty or a church or something like that over time, right? So there are ways to still avoid, and I get it. You're like, well, but I like to put the dogs in the backyard and go play, Call of Duty and not have to do that. And like, I get it, right? But going out there with your dogs is going to amazingly improve all of that situation. You can defend your dogs, right? You can deal with the situation as it is there if you are out there. Asked a question. Good deal. Can eliminating the expectation of reward create calm? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I saw, if you guys don't follow Nash and Cash, you should. But she made a video the other day, and she said, somebody said, my dog is never excited around dinner time or never begs because I've never given them people food, right? So if rewards cause excitement and there is no possibility of reward, then there's no reason for there to be excitement, right? So like in the kitchen, if the dog does not get access to the food, then at some point it will leave the realm of possibility. Now, the trouble becomes that hope doesn't take much, right? So if you're in the kitchen and you're cooking and your dog is in the kitchen and you drop something and they snatch it, they know that that's available now. That's why dog training is so hard and consistency is so important, is because like by getting that tasty morsel, they now know that this is a scenario where reward becomes possible. And they will live on that possibility for quite some time. Now, there's a beautiful example of this. They did this experiment with rats, and I don't remember all of it, right? Bro science. But basically, dropped a rat in a bucket full of water, right? And the rat's like, help, I'm in a bucket full of water. And then, because they were in a bucket full of water, right? And the big thing was that took maybe 5 minutes, right? And the rat was like, all right, deuces. Okay? Now, the other piece of the experiment was that they dropped a rat in the bucket of water, and the rat swimming around in the bucket of water going, help, I'm a rat in a bucket of water. I think I'm about to. And then somebody goes, no, you're not. And picks up the rat, lets it catch its breath, and drops it back in the bucket. And I can't remember how ridiculous the number is, if it went from 5 minutes to an hour or even more hours, right? But it was at least an hour. And it's because the rat had been treading water for 5 minutes and it had seen no possible outcome. So what am I going to do? Exhaust absolutely every single little bit of go? So what it was when that second rat got rescued, the hope, the possibility of rescue arose. And if there is just a little bit of hope, the effort to hang on to that little bit of hope can be fantastic. So yes, we can create a calm dog by not giving them the reward, right? So if we're in the kitchen and we are not the one that's going to be like, haha, little rascal, here, have some of what I'm eating. I don't know who does that. That's just his own then yes, your dogs won't find that desire for that food there, right? This is also why once I have a dog understanding what a place command is, I stop rewarding it. Because I want them to go there and be calm. I don't want to go there and then to be like, I'm going to get a reward, I'm going to get a reward, I'm going to get a reward. If you're still here and you are not already in digital dog school, you should be. If you're still not sure, digitaldogschool.com/get in here. Existential feeding is only feeding your dog as a reward, right? They work for every piece of food. I only do that when I need to. So I will existentially feed very small dogs in training programs because I only have so many morsels to use in a day. I will use existential feeding on dogs that are extremely anxious, scared, or simply unmotivated. But I will be doing so many other things, raising the value of the food, staying in low distraction environments, stuff like that, to ensure that that dog is actually eating, right? When it comes to existential feeding, there's a lot of old school people that go, my dog eats kibble, and if you ain't motivated to eat kibble, you ain't eating in no way a long time. That is not what we're doing. So, the negative of existential feeding is essentially creating too much drive, too much desire, too much go, because the only way to get that food, which you need to live, is through increasing levels of difficulty and working harder and harder and harder. You guys know that moment where you're playing with your dog, okay? If you say no, join digital dog school right now. All right? But you're playing with your dog, and like, let's say we're kind of Leah, right? And you put your dog in a sit, and they're here, and you walk over here, and you say, yes, and your dog goes, I'm going to get it. And right when they get right here, you go, whoop, and you pull the ball, right? And your dog flies past the ball, and they go, shit, and they turn around as fast as possible, and then slam into you for that ball at 1,000 miles an hour. Way more effort than they were originally going to expel to get that ball. Okay? The reason you would do that is to laugh at your dog while they fly through the air. But because you want your dog to understand it is this amount of effort that gets rewarded, not this. Okay? Now, if the only way for your dog to eat, to sustain their life, is by constantly pushing for this effort, you will make an unstable dog. That dog will always believe that they have to put max effort just to stay alive, and that dog will have no chill.